Picture this, a fighter jet screaming off an aircraft carrier deck at night, pulled from 0 to 165 miles per hour in just 2 seconds by a steam catapult, hurling into pitch darkness over hostile waters with enough firepower to take out an entire enemy squadron. The ocean is black, the sky is black, and the only light comes from the faint glow of carrier deck crew hand signals below. That's just another Tuesday for the F/A-18 Super Hornet, an aircraft that wasn't supposed to be extraordinary, wasn't supposed to be glamorous, and wasn't even supposed to exist this long. And yet it became the backbone of U.S. naval aviation, the fighter jet that does the impossible every single day. At first glance, you might think the Super Hornet is just a beefed-up version of the original F/A-18 Hornet. But calling the Super Hornet an upgrade is like calling a modern aircraft carrier a fancy cruise ship. Despite sharing a name and silhouette, the Super Hornet is 25% larger, carries 33% more internal fuel, and has 11 weapon stations instead of the original's 9. It's 7,000 pounds heavier empty, built with stronger bones and engineered from the ground up to survive the violent, unforgiving world of carrier operations. If you're enjoying this breakdown of the Super Hornet, hit that like button. It really helps this video reach more people who love aviation and geopolitics. This jet comes in 2 versions. The single-seat F/A-18E, optimized for raw strike and air-to-air missions, and the twin-seat F/A-18F, which adds a weapons system officer, creating a team that can handle the increasingly complex world of sensors, electronic warfare, and drone integration. Both variants share the same capabilities, but the F model unlocks mission profiles that would overwhelm even the best pilots on their own. The Super Hornet carries a staggering 17,750 pounds of weapons, fuel tanks, and pods across its 11 hardpoints. That's military speak for places you strap things that cost millions of dollars and create large explosions. One mission might mean air-to-air missiles for fleet defense. The next could be precision-guided bombs for close air support, and after that, you might see anti-ship missiles slung under the wings as the jet prepares to hunt enemy vessels hundreds of miles away. Now let's talk about what makes the Super Hornet such a versatile weapons platform, because this is where things get really interesting. Those 11 hardpoints we mentioned earlier, those 11 hardpoints, which is military speak for places to attach really expensive things that go boom, these aren't just attachment points. They're the foundation of one of the most flexible combat aircraft ever built. For air-to-air combat, the Super Hornet carries IM-9 sidewinders for close-range dogfighting, where infrared seekers lock onto the heat signature of enemy aircraft. For beyond visual range engagements, there's the IM-120 AMRAAM, a fire-and-forget missile that uses its own radar to hunt down targets dozens of miles away. You might still see the older IM-7 Sparrow occasionally, but that's becoming a museum piece. When it's time to strike ground targets, the options get even more impressive. JDAM GPS-guided bombs come in 500, 1,000, and 2,000-pound variants, turning regular unguided bombs into precision weapons accurate within feet of their target. Payway laser-guided bombs offer another precision option, while traditional MK-82, MK-83, and MK-84 general-purpose bombs are still available when you need raw explosive power. The GBU-39 small-diameter bomb lets the Super Hornet carry more weapons with less weight, perfect for hitting multiple targets in a single sortie. The AGM-154 JSOB glide bomb can strike from standoff range, keeping the aircraft out of danger, while the AGM-88 HARM specializes in hunting down and destroying enemy radar installations, clearing the way for follow-on strikes. Against naval targets, the Super Hornet can deploy the AGM-84 Harpoon, the classic anti-ship cruise missile that's been sinking enemy vessels since the 1970s. More recently, the Navy's added the AGM-158C LRASM, a long-range anti-ship missile so advanced it can find and attack ships even in GPS-denied environments using artificial intelligence to identify targets and plan its own attack profile. Don't forget the M61A2 Vulcan, a 20mm rotary cannon mounted in the nose with 412 rounds of ammunition. While missiles get the glory, that gun has saved more than one pilot's life in close-quarters combat. Beyond pure weapons, the Super Hornet carries sophisticated targeting pods like the ANS ASQ-228 ATFLR, which combines forward-looking infrared sensors with laser designators, allowing pilots to find targets day or night and guide precision weapons onto them. Electronic warfare pods let the jet jam enemy radars or deceive incoming missiles. External fuel tanks extend operational range, and buddy refueling stores turn the Super Hornet into a flying gas station for other aircraft. The beauty of this system is flexibility. A typical combat loadout might pair air-to-air missiles for self-defense with precision-guided bombs for the primary mission, external fuel tanks for extended range, and a targeting pod for finding and designating targets. The jet adapts to whatever the mission demands. But here's where the Super Hornet's story takes a fascinating turn into the future. The Navy isn't just thinking about conventional threats anymore. They're preparing for the hypersonic missile age, and the Super Hornet is becoming their unlikely defender against one of the most dangerous weapon systems ever developed. The primary weapon in this new defensive role is the AIM-174B, and calling it just another missile doesn't do it justice. This is essentially a naval SM-6 surface-to-air missile that's been adapted for air launch, and it brings capabilities that sound like science fiction. We're talking about extreme range, estimated at over 200 nautical miles, making it one of the longest-range air-to-air missiles ever deployed on a fighter aircraft. It screams through the air at Mach 3.5 or faster because you need that kind of speed to intercept hypersonic threats. The dual-mode seeker combines active radar homing with infrared terminal guidance, and it carries a warhead significantly larger than traditional air-to-air missiles. Here's why this matters. Hypersonic missiles represent an existential threat to aircraft carriers. These weapons travel at 5 times the speed of sound or faster, making them incredibly difficult to intercept with traditional ship-based defenses. By the time a hypersonic missile gets close enough for a carrier's defensive systems to engage it, you've got seconds to react, and that's not enough time. The Navy solution is brilliant in its simplicity. Push the defensive perimeter outward. Instead of waiting for hypersonic missiles to get close to the carrier strike group, Super Hornets fly out 100 to 200 miles or more and attempt to shoot them down while they're still far from friendly forces. This creates multiple layers of defense and buys precious time. If the first Super Hornet misses, there are more behind it, and if they all miss, the ship-based defenses get their chance. The Navy has already conducted test launches of the AIM-174B from Super Hornets, proving the concept works. The aircraft has been modified to carry these much larger and heavier missiles, which is no small feat. The AIM-174B dwarfs standard air-to-air missiles like the AMRAAM, but the Super Hornet's robust airframe and powerful engines handle the load without breaking a sweat.
This transformation represents a broader Navy strategy, turning fighter aircraft into mobile missile defense platforms. In an era where hypersonic anti-ship missiles could reshape naval warfare, the Super Hornet is evolving from a traditional strike fighter into the first line of defense for the entire carrier strike group. It's yet another mission in an already impressive list, and it shows that even after 2 decades of service, the Super Hornet still has new tricks to learn. And here's where the story gets even better. The Super Hornet isn't just versatile in theory. It has done all of these missions in real conflicts: Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, and across the world's most contested waters, from the Persian Gulf to the South China Sea. It can loiter for hours on station, deliver pinpoint accuracy in mountain valleys, fly deep into enemy territory at night, defend a carrier strike group, and intercept unknown aircraft approaching U.S. ships. Inside the cockpit, things get even more interesting. The pilot sits in front of large color multifunction displays that organize radar feeds, weapons data, navigation, and electronic warfare systems into a single intuitive interface. Modern versions introduce a massive touchscreen display that stretches across the cockpit, giving pilots access to more information than ever before. Then there's the magic of the joint helmet-mounted cueing system. With this helmet, the pilot can simply look at an enemy aircraft, cue a missile, and fire, without having to point the nose of the jet at the target. Add modern high off-bore sight missiles, and the Super Hornet becomes lethal even in close-in dogfights. But technology alone doesn't keep the Navy's most important fighter in the air. What really sets the jet apart is its engineering philosophy. The Super Hornet was deliberately designed to be easier to maintain than its predecessors. Access panels were repositioned, components were made modular, parts were standardized. Engineers obsessed over how to keep the jet flying from the cramped decks of aircraft carriers, exposed to salt water, extreme temperatures, and round-the-clock operations. A fighter jet that can't fly is useless. The Super Hornet was built to always fly. To understand how this aircraft came to dominate the skies, we need to rewind to the 1990s, when the US Navy had a huge problem. The iconic F-14 Tomcat was aging and expensive to maintain. The A-6 Intruder strike jet had no replacement. The Navy's ambitious stealth attack aircraft, the A-12 Avenger II, collapsed under cost overruns and technical failures after burning through billions of dollars. And the original Hornets lacked the range and payload needed for the long-range missions the Navy would soon face. The Navy needed a miracle, or at least a fighter that worked. Enter McDonnell Douglas, later absorbed by Boeing, with a solution. Take the proven Hornet design and reinvent it from scratch. Make it bigger, make it tougher, make it fly farther, carry more, survive longer, and cost less to operate. In a post-Cold War environment where Pentagon budgets shrank and conflict zones shifted far from friendly bases, the Navy took the gamble. And remarkably, the Super Hornet program worked. First flight 1995, operational 2001, on time, on budget, almost unheard of in modern fighter development. But the real proving ground came after September 11, 2001. Conventional wisdom said carrier aviation would play a minor role in Afghanistan because it's a landlocked country with no coastline. But Super Hornets flew from carriers in the Arabian Sea and repeatedly proved everyone wrong. They flew long missions over mountain ranges, often waiting hours for fire missions from special forces on the ground. When the calls came in, the Super Hornets delivered precision strikes within minutes. Their reliability rate soared above 70% at a time when many aircraft struggled with high operational tempo. Pilots trusted them, commanders depended on them, and for troops on the ground, the sound of a Super Hornet overhead was a reassurance that help was seconds away. Then came Iraq in 2003. During the invasion, Super Hornets flew everything from air-to-air patrols to surgical strikes. In one standout operation, they used GPS-guided ordnance to take out Iraqi television broadcast facilities in Baghdad with such precision that surrounding buildings suffered minimal damage. The message was clear. The Super Hornet gave the US military a scalpel with wings. The aircraft's effectiveness wasn't limited to Middle Eastern wars. In the Pacific, the jet has become a key player in America's strategy to counter growing Chinese power. US carriers routinely patrolled the South China Sea, launching Super Hornets to monitor airspace, respond to foreign military flights, and reassure allies. In a region where tensions run high and every flight is a geopolitical message, the Super Hornet is America's loudspeaker. And if you want an example of how deeply integrated the jet is into modern naval operations, consider this. The FA-18F two-seat variant serves as the parent platform for the EA-18G Growler, one of the most advanced electronic warfare aircraft on Earth. The Growler can jam enemy radar, disrupt communications, and create confusion across an entire battle network, all while flying alongside Super Hornets to protect them on deep strike missions. If the Super Hornet is the fist, the Growler is the electric shield wrapping around it. Then there's the Super Hornet's buddy refueling system, a brilliant concept that extends the reach of the entire carrier air wing. Instead of relying on vulnerable tanker aircraft far from the battle, one Super Hornet can carry a refueling pod and top up another jet mid-air. If you're flying combat air patrol 400 miles from your carrier and you're running low on fuel, another Super Hornet can literally save your life. And speaking of life-saving design choices, the Super Hornet features one of the safest handling characteristics of any fighter jet. Pilots love it because it's forgiving, stable, and predictable, even during extreme maneuvers or low-speed carrier landings. That matters because every landing on a carrier is basically a controlled crash on a moving, pitching platform. The landing gear is reinforced, the fuselage is strengthened, the engines are optimized for responsiveness at low speeds. Carrier landings break lesser aircraft. The Super Hornet was built for them. Underneath the jet, the General Electric F414 engines deliver around 22,000 pounds of thrust each. That gives the aircraft a top speed of Mach 1.6, fast enough to intercept threats, while still optimized for endurance and agility. The F414 is a marvel of engineering, reliable, powerful, and easy to maintain. And because the Super Hornet's airframe is larger and more capable, future engine upgrades remain possible. Then we have Block 3, the future of the Super Hornet. This upgrade adds new computing power, enhanced networking, and a massive digital display that turns the cockpit into something closer to a command center. It reduces radar signature, adds longer range with conformal fuel tanks, and integrates seamlessly with drones, satellites, and the F-35C. If Block 2 Super Hornets were the workhorses, Block 3 turns them into flying data hubs, plugged directly into the Navy's future battle network. Internationally, the Super Hornet's success speaks volumes. Australia purchased 24 FA-18Fs, using them as a bridge between older Hornets and their incoming F-35 fleet. Kuwait ordered 28 aircraft to replace their aging models. Other countries continue evaluating it, because the Super Hornet offers something rare in modern military aviation: proven capability without the uncertain risks of new, untested platforms. And yet the story doesn't end here. Boeing has tested an upgraded Super Hornet variant with reduced radar cross-section, enhanced electronic warfare capabilities, and new materials, demonstrating that the airframe still has room to evolve. The Navy plans to operate the aircraft well into the 2040s, meaning this jet will have served nearly half a century by the time it retires. And that's what makes the FA-18EF Super Hornet so remarkable. It isn't the stealthiest fighter, it isn't the fastest, it isn't the flashiest, but it works. Every time in every environment for every mission. It takes off from tiny runways on floating cities, hurls into the sky through storms, darkness, and enemy air defenses, and brings its pilots home again. In a world obsessed with perfection, the Super Hornet proves that reliability, adaptability, and survivability are what win real wars, not lab charts, glossy presentations, or futuristic promises. From the carrier decks of the Pacific to the mountains of Afghanistan, from air superiority missions to precision strike operations, from refueling allies mid-air to jamming enemy networks, the Super Hornet doesn't just fill a role. It defines what modern naval aviation is. And that's a fact worth knowing. If you learned something new about the Super Hornet, let me know in the comments. Which fighter jet should we break down next? We make videos like this every week. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next one.